Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is Lap Guide for Nurburgring Nordschleife with the Porsche 993. Let's get this started. Your first braking point is before the pit wall on the right ends. You can go a bit more to the right to give yourself a bit more space to navigate through this turn. Slowly start to accelerate as this car is a rear engine, rear-wheel drive, so it's easy for it to get oversteery. Use the sign on the right as your turn-in point. Ease off on the throttle for this turn. Use this patch of dry grass that is highlighted here on the right as your next braking point. You'll be braking hard for a short time, then as you go through the turns, just ease off a bit on the braking. Slowly start to accelerate, and you'll be easing off on the throttle for this left-hander, then use some braking for these next two turns. Start to brake when the tarmac transitions from a lighter to a darker color. Be nice and careful through here, as it is really easy for the car to start to oversteer. Right after the top of this hill, there's a little dip. Once you reach the dip, ease off on the throttle and use a little bit of braking so you don't end up understeering onto the grass. Now let's fast forward through here, then start to brake when you reach the signs on the right. Slowly bring yourself to the left, and then start to brake before the curb on the left ends. This should give you just enough space to be able to make it through this turn without ending up on the gravel. And once again, just be nice and careful when you're starting to apply the throttle. Use this dry patch of grass on the right as your next braking point. You'll be braking for a moment over here. Don't take too much advantage of the curb. Brake a bit more over here. Then brake a bit more before you reach the crosswalk. Be nice and gentle on the throttle. And once again, be nice and gentle. And be ready to start to countersteer in case the car wants to get a bit squirmy. You'll be braking for a brief moment of time, and shortly after you pass the writing on the tarmac, that is when you will start to brake. This turn over here is really easy for the car to get oversteery, so you want to be super careful when you're starting to accelerate. Right after you pass the sign, the second sign on the left, that is when you will start to brake. And I'm going to keep repeating this for the rest of this video. You want to be careful when you start to accelerate, as a lot of these turns is really easy for the car to start to oversteer. Ease off on the throttle for this chicane, and before the curb on the right starts, you'll brake for a moment, let the car cruise for a short time, and slowly start to accelerate. Brake nice and early for this turn, as there's a very sharp downhill right after this right-hander. By braking early, you should have more than enough time to make your car do what you want it to do, and you can short shift here for a bit more stability. Brake before the curb on the right ends, and this should give you just enough space to not end up going off track and receiving a penalty. Once again, brake before the curb on the right ends, and be nice and gentle on the throttle, as this spot is very easy for a lot of cars to lose control on. For this turn, use this blue dot on the tarmac as your next braking point, and by braking here, this will give you the perfect amount of space to be able to nicely go through this turn, slowly start to accelerate, and let's go ahead and fast forward through this part. When you're in the middle of the gray curb that is on the right, you will start to brake. You won't be braking for too long, as you don't want to lose too much speed through this high-speed turn. Slowly start to accelerate, as the car can get a bit squirmy. Ease off on the throttle for this right-hander. Then before the curb on the left starts, you will then need to start to brake. You can stay on third gear to make sure that the car doesn't oversteer, so this will give it a bit more stability. Your next braking point is just after you pass this happy little tree that is on the left. This will give you just enough space to be able to enter the carousel and go at a nice steady speed. Use a little bit of acceleration to maintain speed and start to accelerate once your car is pointing out of it. Take this left-hander at full throttle, brake when the curb on the right starts. Be nice and careful on the throttle, ease off on the throttle for this right-hander, brake before the curb on the left ends, nice and gentle on the throttle, and you'll be easing off on the throttle for this upcoming right-hander. Alright, so now for this next turn, you'll be using some braking and just be nice and gentle on the throttle to make sure that the car doesn't want to oversteer. Brake when the curb on the left ends, be nice and gentle on the throttle once again. Look for the Yokohama sign on the right as you'll brake well before you pass it. If you end up braking here, you'll end up overshooting the turn just a little bit, but it's still possible to continue along unaffected. Then brake before the gray curb on the left ends, and once again, you have to be absolutely careful with the throttle input over here, and as you saw, I almost ended up losing it. Brake before the curb on the left ends, be nice and gentle on the throttle, especially through here, really easy for the car to oversteer. Then brake right before the riding on the left side of the track starts. This turn you want to be extra careful as well, as it's also really easy for the car to lose it as you're now going uphill. Right before you make the jump, you will start to brake. Be nice and gentle on the throttle for the millionth time, and before you start to go downhill, you can short shift onto 5th gear to make your car an extra bit more stable. And over here, you just want to be careful with your steering input, as it's really easy for the car to start to do silly things. Look for a path that is on the right, as that will be your next braking point. Brake before you pass it, and you won't be braking for too long. Bring yourself to the right side of the track. Brake before the gray curb on the right ends. Be nice and gentle on the throttle, as this is another spot where it's easy to initiate oversteer. Brake very early for this turn, as you want to stay inside the mini carousel. Go a bit too fast and you'll get spit out of it. Brake before the curb on the left ends. You won't be braking for too long. Then do some throttle control. Try to stay on the right side of the track and slowly start to fully accelerate. Take a breather as we fast forward through this part. Alright, and then before the curb on the left ends, you want to start to brake, and this is what I'm going to call the safe approach to make sure that the car is mostly stable. Brake a bit more when the curb on the right ends, and you'll have a bit of extra space to play around with, so this will cost you a bit of time, but it's better to be safe than sorry. And then just carefully accelerate through these last few turns. Brake when the tarmac on the left starts. Be nice and careful with the throttle, and that is it for the lap guide. Let's quickly talk about the strategies. As for this race, well, there isn't really a strategy other than to survive and make sure you don't end up going off track like how I am over here. If you're on the wheel, get ready to have a heck of a workout, and well, same goes for those on the controller. You're going to have a heck of a workout just trying to counter steer a lot and make sure that the car stays on track at all times. When you're trying to overtake someone, you just want to be super careful, as it's really easy to have the car slide and end up accidentally tapping someone off track, and then you'll end up with another silly penalty. So in other words, no need to pit, no need to worry about tires and fuel, and don't be a jerk. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So this is Mr. MCA, wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.